But let's move on first of all to our main story this evening, and it could end up being the biggest political scandal of the decade. The Prime Minister is going to be forced now to reveal all about Peter Mandelson and his appointment as Britain's ambassador to Washington. The move follows MPs demanding the full release of papers tied to Mandelson's appointment, a role that he was sacked from in September over his links to Jeffrey Epstein. Now, in an extraordinary statement this evening, a Number 10 spokesperson has hit out saying Peter Mandelson's actions are unforgivable. He lied to the Prime Minister, hid information that has since come to light, and presented Jeffrey Epstein as someone he barely knew, adding that the documents would show the lies he told. But we've already hit a slight stumbling block in finding out the truth, as just moments before tonight's vote, Cabinet Office Minister Chris Ward claimed that no documents could be published tonight after advice from the Metropolitan Police, who are now running a criminal investigation into Mandelson. So House of Commons Speaker Lindsay Hoyle shut that down, telling MPs the police cannot dictate to this House.
The Metropolitan Police have no jurisdiction on what this House may wish to do. It will be whether the government provides or not.
That follows the Met Police investigating allegations that Mandelson leaked market-sensitive information to Epstein while serving as business secretary under Gordon Brown. But tonight, everyone is demanding answers to one central question. What did the government know and when about Mandelson's relationship with Epstein before appointing him? Well, I'm delighted to say that I'm joined in Washington, Conservative MP for Chingford and Woodford Green, Sir Iain Duncan Smith. It's so good to see you.
Very good to hear.
Right, it's a busy old day in Westminster today. Probably one of those days you're quite glad you're here. You've got important business to do here. We'll go on to that in a minute. But what did you make of events today?
Well, I think they're quite devastating. I think, first of all, the Prime Minister was made to look utterly hopeless and foolish at the dispatch box. I was watching what Kemi did to him, and eventually, after 3 hard questions, he had to admit that actually that he did know some of these things. It's going to come even further. I cannot believe that in the vetting of Peter Mandelson, with his track record for having lied previously to governments, that MI5 and the security services generally would not have uncovered a whole series of issues about his relationship with Epstein. And that alone should have been enough to stop him being the ambassador, because that relationship was toxic. Yeah. But apart from being toxic, which eventually had to admit, the reality is that he did other things for Epstein. Now, I just wonder, how can it possibly be that the security service, who vet like mad for a job like that, it would have 100% vetting, did not uncover this? And I just wonder to what degree did Downing Street brush all that aside in their determination to get the Chagos deal through and to put him in place, hopefully to be able to get that done in Washington. You
see, this is so interesting. So effectively what your claim is, Iain, is that these two big stories today, Mandelson and Chagos, are inherently connected, because Mandelson was put into this city in Washington DC despite potential controversy down the line, which you say maybe the Prime Minister turned a slight blind eye to and thought we'll get away with it, because he had to do what once he arrived here?
Well, he was brought on board to try and get alongside the President and to smooth the pathways for, I think, this eventual deal, which, by the way, had started before Trump under Biden. And so this process was interrupted by the election, where I don't think Downing Street expected to President Trump to have won, but he won overwhelmingly. So they're now in a different position, trying to catch up with President Trump's dislike generally of that kind of process, as was going to happen over Chagos. The giving away of sovereignty is not something he believes in. But here's the real point, is that there's no way on earth they could not know about Mandelson's past with Epstein. Forget whether or not he even interrupted or was involved in trying to change legislation, which we now discover that he was. But I wonder to what degree did they understand that Blair and the others also knew about this toxic relationship with Epstein. And it was toxic, but he's got form for this. He also was very close to Deripaska when he was EU trade minister, when they were trying to lower the taxes on aluminium, which is Deripaska's stuff. He was found on a yacht with Deripaska on holiday. These sort of things. That's who he is. He was like a moth to a candle of money, and he loved all that stuff. And the truth was, he was therefore unreliable. Let's
have a look what one MP, Labour MP, said today, Natalie Fleet. She said this.
I am absolutely furious about what Peter Mandelson has done. At the heart of this are women, children, victims that have been betrayed. There was a paedophile, a convicted paedophile, and a man, Peter Mandelson, that lied to the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom about his links to that paedophile. He let the Labour Party down, he let Parliament down, but most importantly of all, he let those women survivors down. His behaviour has been absolutely disgusting.
I don't always agree with Natalie Fleet, but I have to say I admire her honesty there and her forthright. That's so unusual to see any Labour MP attacking Keir Starmer like that. How much trouble is he in?
He's in a whole heap of trouble. He was in trouble before this broke. He's now in deep trouble because what's happened is he gambled on Mandelson and he's lost. Many of the Labour MPs, and I know them very well, they were against Mandelson's appointment. People really dubious about him, his background, the sort of stories about the Epstein, which we didn't get the full detail, but we eventually did. Also, as I said earlier on, stories about his involvement in all sorts of dodgy areas, and his penchant for always being attracted to people with money and power, and it was peculiar. And so the Labour Party doesn't like Mandelson, and therefore on the backbenches today there was silence. They were not going to get behind the Prime Minister, they did not agree with him, and they told him at the time, many of them, that this is a mistake, and they have been proved right.
We were talking earlier today, and you shocked me when you said you thought who would lead the Labour Party after Starmer. Tell us who you think that could be.
Well, I don't know, but it is definitely the case that the present Environment Secretary may well make it if he puts his hat in the ring. He's overwhelmingly popular.
Miliband.
Yeah, but not David, but Miliband. Ed Miliband is the key. Sorry, I should have mentioned his name before. But
our audience will know who you mean when you say the Environment Secretary.
Yeah, because of course he's been wrong on all of this, and he's behaving in a sort of communist-like fashion, imposing rules and regulations on ordinary members of the public, making the cost of motoring higher.
But he's very popular with the members, isn't he?
But the Labour Party members love him because this is the kind of socialism that they want, and he is doing it. So if he put his hand to the ring, you'd end up with him, without question, I think. Other than that, you know, it's a bit of a bun fight for the others, frankly.
And it's not easy to, obviously, Labour don't make it as easy as the Conservatives. You've got a track record of getting rid of your leaders quite quickly.
I know all about that.
You know all about that. But there is a sort of process here that we won't get into the weeds of necessarily, but how quickly could that change be made, do you think, if they are determined?
Well, the one problem is that the rules of the Labour Party are much stricter, and that means that there is a time when you challenge, and that is normally at the conference, and then you have to come forward with a huge bunch of named MPs who support you. In this case, the numbers would be about 80. And then there has to be a challenge made directly. Only when that happens does it open up for the rest. And it's why they've never got rid of a leader, Prime Minister or leader of the opposition, ever in the past. Since the Second World War, not one has been got rid of. Even if they were hopeless and had got into real trouble, they weren't got rid of. And so that's where the problem is different from the Tory party.
Yeah.
We make it far too easy, I think.
Yeah.
But they're in the opposite direction.
Chagos, Sir Iain Duncan Smith, let's talk about that, because you're in town for various reasons with your work with the Centre for Social Justice, but Chagos is an issue that is incredibly close to your heart, isn't it? It
is, because I think this government has betrayed us. We talk about betrayal. This is a big betrayal. We have the right over the Chagos Islands, and what happens is that the problem is that they got a judgment in the UN, and it couldn't be an absolute judgment. It was a observatory and guidance. It wasn't anything else from that. And what happened was this government decided before they were in power that what they were going to do straight away is to get this into law and then put a treaty together and get rid of the Mauritius, the Chagos Islands to Mauritius. And the problem is that is our responsibility. We have a sovereign right over those islands. And the problem is right now that China is very close to Mauritius. The American base in Diego Garcia, which is absolutely probably the most strategically critical base that America has, arguably almost anywhere in the globe, because it looks across the east-west trade routes to China, it looks into the Middle East, and it is critical for any support work that may take place.
Do you feel that we're hearing tonight this exclusive, apparently the Telegraph had, that Trump is ready to sign this off? What do you know about that?
Well, I've talked to a whole bunch of senators and congressmen about their views on this, and once they understand how much the British government has been deceiving, I believe, and that's a very powerful word, but I believe the British government, particularly when Mandelson was here, has not told the truth about what actually America would be signing up to. Two things very quickly here. What they never said at the beginning was that there was 1966, when Diego Garcia was planned to be built, they had an exchange of letters between the US government then, I think it was Johnson, and then I think it must have been Harold Wilson at the time. Now, what was interesting about that is the deal on this was that that Diego Garcia would be built, but that the UK would retain sovereign control of the islands. Now that is still in place, and that is an absolute treaty. And that gives the US government the right to say no, because our guarantees are that you have sovereign right to control those islands. And we trust you, but they cannot trust Mauritius, because China will be in there like a shot, and Mauritius doesn't have a navy that can patrol any of this, and that's the threat.
So you honestly think that the Labour government, possibly with Mandelson, because let's face it, what he's very good at is lying, have literally lied to the American administration here about what they're signing up to?
Well, there are two elements, the one that I've just named, and the second element in all of this is that what they didn't discuss with the US government was the fact the Palindaba Treaty, which is an Pan-African treaty, which is to stop nuclear weapons being based anywhere in Africa. Mauritius has signed up to that. That has a terrible impact on this, because it would mean that the Mauritius would have the right to say, you must declare that you have any nuclear weapons on. Now, America will never do that, nor would the UK. But that then gives a right of inspection, also from the Palindaba Treaty, and that's the real problem, is suddenly it becomes very dodgy for Diego Garcia further down the road. How do you protect from that? We hold on to sovereignty. That's critical. So, you know, I was here to talk about that, and I'm doing other things as well, as social justice and the Centre for Social Justice here in Washington. Well, thank you, Iain. It's lovely to see you. Thank you for making the time. I know you've got a crazy schedule while you're in Washington, so it's a real pleasure to have you here.